Welcome, my name is Matt, aka Roadjet88. We're getting into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, mods, Scout Trooper. And what is a Scout Trooper? Well, we can go to a couple books that I have as well as dictionary definition. I want to start off first with a couple books and just kind of breaking down how we can define what a different type of trooper is. I want to start off for breaking down Scout Trooper with a couple books that I personally have on hand. Is the Star Wars Trilogy scrapbook, The Galactic Empire, where it has a couple pages that explains about the stormtroopers and how their armaments can be adapted for various different types of terrains. As we have seen in various situations like Ice Planet Hoth, their gears can be adapted for that. We've seen stormtroopers have their armaments geared up to be able to handle sandy terrains like Tatooine, and also rainforest terrains like the forest moon of Endor. Once again, also in my Star Wars Visual Dictionary book, there is pages that breaks down the various different types of components, that is geared within the trooper outfits, within their uniforms, the gear parts and all. Now, stormtroopers are kind of generic. Snow troopers we saw in The Emperor Strikes Back, as they were raiding the planet Hoth, the rebel base that was on the planet Hoth in The Emperor Strikes Back. That would be, that would be this guy right here. Now, we have seen in Return of the Jedi what's called a Scout Trooper for rainforest terrains, which would be this guy. And we have this guy, and we have both of these guys in the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes games. Somehow, and there's some TIE fighter pilots, right there. Various different types of pilots for various different types of ships. But while they are pilots, they're also still kind of troopers in a sense, but they're more pilot directions. One character that Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes does not have, and it's kind of annoyingly surprising that they don't, considering all the other troopers they do have, that is the Sand Trooper that we saw in A New Hope on the desert planet Tatooine. Their gear is designed for sandy terrains. So more specifically, what is a Scout Trooper? Well, Scout generally means to observe, explore, or search an area to gather information. The exact definition depends on how it is used. As a verb, to explore, to carefully search an area to find information or something specific. As we saw in Return of the Jedi, especially when Luke and Leia kind of evaded from the troopers at the shield generator base for the second Death Star. Well, they kind of had to explore through the woods specifically for them. They knew they were there, but they couldn't find them exactly, so there was a lot of trees in the way. Think about it. There was a lot of rainforest in the way. So they had to really explore. And then, of course, there's defined talent, like talent agents. An observer, a person, like a soldier or a pilot, sent ahead to gather information or an enemy, information on an enemy or situation. A talent spotter, a youth organization, whatever, informal, agreeable person. But I suppose we could say in the Star Wars sense, the Scout Troopers, if we follow what we were seeing them do in Return of the Jedi, there was a lot to have to weed through, possible pun intended, through the rainforest. When Luke and Leia kind of drew the attention of the scout troopers away from that shield generator base so that Han could try to hopefully break into it. These guys basically are objectively assigned to look for the needle in the haystack, if you will. So coming back to the scout trooper, if you go to my very first video in my character and mods playlist, I do by definition break down the various different types of character roles as well as the various different types of mods and their purposes, and explain what it is we're doing when we're applying mods to characters. For anyone who, when they first look at the mods, it just kind of feels like it's going over their heads. I know for me, it kind of did at first. It still kind of does just a little bit, but it's a learning process. So if you take a look, your Scout Trooper is a support character. He teams up with the Empire, Imperial Remnants, and Imperial Troopers. He is all for the dark side. If you go to swgoh.gg, they recommend the same. It's kind of statistically preferenced by the game players, what they prefer, and it's actually matching up with what the in-game tips is suggesting, which is speed and potency. Well, let's take a look also at his abilities, because these mods do affect the abilities. While I'm seeing things for damage and accuracy, so that's like critical chance and critical damages that are possibilities. Once again, critical damage is another suggestive possibility. Again, critical damage. Speed is there. So there is need for speed. Whoop. And maybe some suggestions of health or tenacity. But okay, so speed and potency. First of all, I would say speed is probably what suicided the Scout Troopers in Return of the Jedi. I mean, look at how many trees they ran into. But aside from that, as a support character, they are kind of strategic. If you think about it in a sense, if they're not a squad leader, they're going to be kind of supportive to the squad leader from within inside the squad, almost like an XO position of a squad ranking. You know, you have your commanding officer, then you have your assistant commanding officer before the rest of the squad. Support usually is going to back up what the team is going to do, either the squad leader or even the rest of the team. They're kind of looking after them, making sure everyone is okay. Kind of the provisions and as well as the instructions of what's needing to be done. Various things like that. It can be any number of things. And this is a support character. Now, if you give him speed and potency, you're kind of providing him with attacker role characteristics. With that, because he does attack, he does fight. But you're kind of speeding him up. You're giving him more oomph to his attacks. But critical damage and critical chance would be just as sufficient as well. If you were to go to critical damage and critical chance, okay, so chance is a statistical gambling word, if you want to look at it that way. It's the statistical odds of whether or not he's going to actually hit his mark. You add the word critical to it, though, and you increase the odds in his favor. Critical damage just kind of promotes how much damage he's going to do. It increases the amount of damage he's going to do when he does attack, and when his odds are in his favor and he's definitely going to hit, well, he's definitely going to do damage. But if you wanted to go speed and potency, which isn't a bad suggestion because it gives him a little more speed, like an attacker, because attacker characters generally have speed already laced into their DNA. Potency is a chemistry term. It basically means to kind of to dominate something, basically. Say you were to eat some bland food. Me as a Texan, here in Texas, we like to put spice in our food. Whether it's like jalapenos, habaneros, cayenne pepper, something. You know, we like to really spice bland food up a lot of times here. It dominates the flavor. A character with potency in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, with potency, his attacks are going to dominate what's going to happen. It's going to kind of take the attention. So speed and potency, you are giving him attacker character role abilities in a sense. With mods, you're either doubling what his abilities already are, or you're kind of cross training them to be able to function in terms of a different character role position. He's still going to be a support character, but with this, you cross train him to be like a support attacker, basically. And that's basically what modding is. You're basically either enhancing what he already does, or you're cross-training him to add an additional aspect to his abilities, the functions to his abilities. So critical damage, critical chance is also another possibility to take into consideration, along with speed and potency. Some of the formula factors would be basing it on who you are going up against in terms of opponents. Having a secondary loadout actually is not a bad idea. In case you feel the need to kind of switch out between the different types of mods. Speed and potency is just a suggestion. It's a tip. And yes, it is statistically preferable by many players in the swgoh.gg online website, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the most effective in every battle situation. So this is why, like in the journey guides and territory battles and various other aspects, certain events, I suggest, that those are, or even the Galactic War, those are moments that get to take the time to get to know your characters, as well as get to know your enemies, your opponents, and kind of get to study the chemistry, the formula, how they interact with each other, and how they survive when in a battle. Mods do play a factor in this. So, just a couple of things to take into consideration. Speed and potency is not a bad idea, but neither is critical damage, critical chance. It is another possible approach to take into consideration. Like I pointed out, there was one aspect in one of the abilities that I did feel like I saw potential for health or tenacity. If I had to choose between health or tenacity as a mod, I might lean more towards tenacity, because by definition, tenacity means not easily torn apart. It makes him more durable. Now, there's nothing wrong with health. It just increases his health aspects to himself, or even if he's applying health to other members in his squad. Support characters, again, they're like team players. All right, they look after the team. They're gonna back up what other team player characters are gonna do. They're gonna back them up in their decision, what their attacks are gonna do. They will kind of look after them and support them. That's what a support means. So, if you wanted to test out health or tenacity as possibilities, maybe along with speed, like speed and tenacity, speed and health, that is another possible route to go. Or critical damage and health, critical damage and tenacity. I mean, it's something to play around with. I'm not saying that these are the answers, because really, in the end, there's really no right or wrong answer. Well, okay, I take that back. There are very wrong answers with mods, but in terms of a right answer for mods, there really isn't. You kind of have to play around with it, and it's going to be based on who you go up against a lot of times, or how you are, the formula of your squad that you put together, the chemistry of your squad that you put together, how they interact with each other. Those are factors to weigh in when you're applying mods. it's not just only going to be something that's going to affect only just that character, because those mods are affecting his abilities, and his abilities might have effects for the rest of the squad, not just only for himself. So those are things to take into consideration. But speed and potency is not a bad route to go. So that is Scout Troopers mods for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comments, questions, suggestions down below, and thank you for following. May the Force be with you.